That's the sound of the song called Mask Maker, Mask Maker. It was written by Gary Kapelus of Toronto. It's one of the 100 or so COVID songs that he's got now on his COVID YouTube channel. And in case you couldn't tell, it's a parody of the famous song from Fiddler on the Roof, Matchmaker, Matchmaker. Now, Kapelus isn't a trained musician. He's actually a retired speech-language pathologist, and he worked in hospitals. And it's not him singing, it's one of his neighbors who's a doctor. For the last 2 years, Kapelus has been documenting life under the pandemic by adapting the lyrics of popular songs with his own words. And he covers topics that lots of people are talking about, including Omicron, not being able to see his 6 grandchildren, and not being able to find rapid tests. His biggest hits are songs where he gets angry about how he feels some of the provincial premiers, especially Alberta's Jason Kenney and Ontario's Doug Ford, have mishandled the COVID emergency. Kapelus posts a new song or two every week, and unfortunately, with this pandemic now raging through the country over the new year, he's got more than enough topics of inspiration.
This is a lot more efficient than letters to the editor. I can say what I want to say. I can provoke some feedback, make a lot of people laugh, but there are times when something has to be said, and I say it through the music.
I'm Ellen Besner, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Monday, January the 3rd, 2022. Welcome to the CJN Daily, sponsored, as always, by Metropia. Well, I hope you all had a safe and healthy new year as we begin 2022, as so many people in the world are catching this new super contagious strain of COVID or trying your best to avoid it. Meanwhile, songwriter Gary Kapelus has been hunkered down in his Toronto home, visiting with his children and grandchildren who live in Norway. So he's been on a bit of a songwriting hiatus until they left, but he's now working on new material. Coming up, we'll talk to Kapelus about how he's sort of following in the footsteps of the real-life parody singer Al Yankovic. But first, here's what's making news elsewhere in Canada right now.
I am Etel Ergun Ovimelek in Winnipeg, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like.
Remember back in May, we told you how a Canadian man living in Ashkelon, Israel, became a hero during the 2 weeks of rocket attacks by Hamas. A rocket hit Robert Gasner's neighbor's house on May 12, 2021, and he was hiding in his own shelter, but he heard the boom. The rocket destroyed the neighbor's house on Golani Street and set it on fire, and Gasner leapt into action. He rushed into the burning building. He carried out a 5-year-old boy on his shoulders, and he got the shocked mother and the other kids out too, and Gasner was injured during this event. Now, the mayor of Ashkelon has awarded Gasner a certificate of appreciation for his efforts. The official ceremony was held just recently at the mayor's office with Gasner and his family, and the neighbors were all there too. Gasner didn't know them at the time, but they've become quite close since. You can check out Gary Kapelus' songs and sing along on his YouTube channel. The link is in our show notes. Gary Kapelus joins us now from his home. Let's start with a congratulations for this great YouTube channel, and tell us how the idea came about.
Oh, well, at the beginning of the pandemic, one of my neighbors decided to organize a street sing-along, and it went on for 70 straight nights. And as part of that, one of my neighbors, who is a great guitarist, was performing songs for us, and so I wrote a song for him, and it was just based on a pandemic theme, and I wrote it for him, and he played it, and everyone enjoyed it, so we did it again, and we did it again, and this went on for like 3 months, and we had a great time singing the songs together on the street, celebrating the pandemic in the way that we could by keeping ourselves happy. And it gave me a chance to think about what we were actually talking about at the time. What were the topics that were in the news that we were talking about? Everything from no supplies at the supermarket, to wearing masks, staying away from each other, all of those kinds of topics. And so I started to rewrite popular songs with lyrics that talked about the pandemic and all of those topics. So it started there. So this is the spring of 2020. And here I'm about 150 songs later, still going.
Now, what kind of musical training do you have? You're not a musician by trade. You're a healthcare professional, correct?
No, I've got no formal training in music. I just love listening to it, and all kinds of music, all kinds of genres.
Why don't you walk us through your process? How long does it take? How do you get the idea?
So an idea pops into my head. There's something that they're talking about on the news. Maybe it's about vaccines, because so much of what we've been talking about lately has been about vaccines. So there's something specific that I want to say, and either a song will dawn on me where the title of the song has the same sort of rhythm as a phrase that I want to say, or it's just a song that I want to use because I like the song. And I'll find the song, and I will make sure, nowadays that I don't have somebody singing them, I'll make sure that I can find the musical background for the song, like an instrumental version. And if I can, then I will use that song. I'll download the lyrics and just start to work on changing the lyrics to say what I want to say. In some cases, it requires a whole lot of research. If there are technical terms, I want to make sure that I get those accurate. So I will do my research, make my notes, and then I will kind of assimilate those notes, those words, those terms into the song.
But once you do the research, so like how many hours?
There was a point in the first summer, the summer of 2020, when I might polish off a couple a day. The creation of a music video takes a long time. You have the actual new lyrics and music, and those have to be combined with the right photos, using software that turns it all into a little movie. So a song could take a couple of days to write. The whole process takes maybe a week.
You were mentioning that you have other people singing your words, and I looked at some of their videos, of course, and why don't you sing some of them? You don't sing, so why not?
Because I don't sing.
Sometimes you get some good numbers, really good numbers. Like I've seen the biggest one was 700 views so far. What is the reaction been to this?
So the one that you're referring to is, there were a couple that were very political. So over the course of time, I've been quite critical of government decisions about how they've handled it. I live in Ontario, and so, but I also lived in Saskatchewan at one point, so I've got a soft spot for that province, and I was pretty upset with decisions that were made this summer in Saskatchewan and in Alberta in relation to their handling of the pandemic. So obviously it struck a chord. And while this is all good fun for me, this is kind of my way of, it's a musical letter to the editor, and it gets a great response from people.
And how does it help people? How do they use this to cope with what we're all going through?
They're saying things like, it's exactly what I was thinking, what I was feeling. I'm glad that you said it out loud. I'm glad that you were brave enough to poke at that politician. I'm glad that you're getting the message out there. I'm glad that I've got something to listen to while I'm, sitting here not being able to do anything. It brings a smile to my face. One that I wrote back in the first spring was, it was written from the perspective of a child to their grandparent. And it was a real tearjerker. And so all of my friends who are grandparents, for them it was... there was a really great response to that. Everybody felt the same way, that they were missing their grandchildren, missing the physical contact with them. So, you know, as an example, it was I was saying something that they wanted to say themselves, or I was giving words to feelings that they had.
Now, you know, I have to ask you about legal trouble and copyright issues.
So when I post a video, I will get a message from YouTube as to whether there are any copyright claims on either the music or the pictures, which means I can't use them to make money, but I can use them for the purposes that I do, which is just to put them out there. I would say one interesting thing happened with YouTube, which is, you know, some of my songs have been quite critical, and one of them was about the anti-vaxxers, and I wrote what was called the anti-vaxxer anthem. And if you weren't too bright, you'd say, oh yeah, that says exactly what I believe. And I filled it full of anti-vaxxer images, and it was a really fun song. I loved it. But YouTube kicked it off because I violated YouTube's, you know, community, whatever it's called, policy.
I was going to ask you, so how long do you want to keep going on this?
As soon as we declare this pandemic over, I will hang it up. But, you know, that could be a long time from now. Who knows? And my wife likes to joke every time I say I'm done, I'm not. Because, like, right after that, I'll come up with another song. So she's just kind of given up. So that I'm going to be writing these forever.
And that's what Jewish Canada sounds like for this episode of the CJN Daily. Sponsored, as always, by Metropia. Integrity, community, quality, and customer care. Today's listener shout-out goes to our new listener, Yaakov Tevner, in Ashkelon, Israel. He's formerly of Harrisburg in Pennsylvania. And we'll end the episode with a little more from Gary's YouTube COVID channel. This one is his personal favorite. It's called Breathing on a Jet Plane, again performed by his friend Carrie Shields.
So miss me and pray for me. Hope there's no one next to me. Scrub the seat until the leather glows. I'm breathing on a jet plane. I'm safe, I'm covered in cellophane. Oh, I hate to be exposed. No friendly chats won't turn my head. Just watch the screen, stare straight ahead. Don't want whatever the flight attendant brings.